Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. At this point, please silence all cell phones and direct your attention to the screens, or if you can, to the windows. We will begin our ceremony this morning with a flyover, courtesy of the 180th Fighter Wing of the Ohio Air National Guard, in just a couple of minutes.
Throughout our years, Ford has supported our nation's armed forces and honored their selfless service to our country. The Central Ohio Ford dealers are proud to continue this tradition by investing in the work of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus. Together, we want to share the veterans' heroic stories and introduce a grateful nation to the faces behind our forces. Please join us to hear inspiring educational stories from our veterans who have gone above and beyond their call to defend freedom around the world. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum and your Central Ohio Ford dealers. Together, we will never forget.
Hello, I'm Kurt Walker, CEO of Nationwide, and it's my privilege to share in today's event honoring our nation's heroes. Nationwide has supported our country's veterans, active duty members of the military, and their families for decades. Whether it's sponsoring honor flights to take our veterans to Washington, D.C. to visit the memorials, or keeping our pledge to hire veterans in our workforce, Nationwide feels a strong connection to supporting those who have served our country. I'm proud that members of my own family have served in the military and have the utmost respect for those who put their lives on the line to secure our freedoms. As part of Nationwide's ongoing commitment, it's our privilege to provide free access to the National Veterans Memorial and Museum for veterans, active duty members, and Gold Star families. We're grateful for the courage, dedication, and countless sacrifices made by our country's heroes. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum is a powerful and personal experience designed to give a voice to every man and woman who answered the call for our country. Offering access to the National Veterans Memorial and Museum is a small token of our appreciation, and it reinforces our commitment to ensure their stories are honored and remembered. Join us in supporting our veterans, their families, and the honorable mission of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum.
Good morning, and welcome to the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Our Master of Ceremonies this morning is a program director and on-air host from iHeartMedia. Please welcome Boxer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to adjust this just a sec. Okay. Going to need it for Nate anyways. Nate is much taller than I am, so anyway, it's a real pleasure to have you all here today on this Memorial Day to the National Veterans Memorial Museum. Isn't this a beautiful place? And it's right in our backyard here in Columbus. How amazing is that? Thank you for joining us as we remember, of course, all those who gave their last full measure of devotion and service to this great country of ours. Please stand if you're able to for the presenting of the colors by the Marion Harding High School Army JROTC, and remain standing for the national anthem and color guard presenting the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, please remain standing if you're able to. I'd like to welcome Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Whiteman of the 121st Air Refueling Wing of the Ohio Air National Guard for our invocation.
As we prepare to pray, I'd ask you to consider these words of Benjamin Disraeli. The legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example. I invite you to join me as we pray. Great and loving God, we thank you for your presence with us here today as we again gather to remember and honor the women and men of our nation who have given their lives in its defense. We stand in this place knowing full well that we can do so because so many have given so much. May the words that we say to one another, may the words that we hear from our speaker serve to lead us as we live in the example of integrity, service, and excellence that they have granted us. And later today, as we speak their names, let their legacy of greatness echo loudly, so loudly that the world will know our gratitude. It's our desire that you will be honored and glorified by all that we do and say here today. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. You may be seated. As I mentioned before, it's a real pleasure and an honor to be here to be able to help out today on this Memorial Day, this remembrance and celebration of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. I know for me fondly, Memorial Day, it started at a young age where my family and I would go buy the American flags from the hardware store, and we'd head out to the cemetery and clean up some of the graves of our family members who were no longer with us. But specifically, it took me a little while to understand, the true meaning. We had, of course, family members that passed away in wartime and those serving our country. So I learned at a young age just how important Memorial Day is. For many, it's the unofficial start of summer. Barbecues, pools. I don't know about this weekend in Central Ohio, but, we'll get there. But vacations, it's all American. It's all a part of our fabric. And all thanks to the men and women who made that ultimate sacrifice serving our country, which is why we are here today. I want to start this morning by sharing a special thank you to our generous partners whose thoughtful support helps us prepare for meaningful days like our Memorial Day ceremony. Central Ohio Ford Dealers and Lane Aviation, with ongoing support from the Greater Columbus Arts Council, Nationwide, the American Electric Power Foundation, Cardinal Health, Battelle, and the Wolf Foundation. These incredible partners support the storytelling that you've seen here at our beautiful museum year-round through events, programs, and more, and exhibitions. Additionally, we would like to thank Nationwide for providing year-round free museum access to veterans, active duty military members, and Gold Star families. It is important to remember that even though this is a place of honor that carries designation as the National Veterans Memorial Museum, it is also independent, a nonprofit organization that relies solely on financial support from members, donors, and friends who believe in the mission. Since the NVMM opened back in 2018, nearly 11,000 people have become members. I'm one of them. Please stand if you are a member so we can also thank you for your support. Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting this incredible resource for veterans. As you walked up the ramp today for today's ceremony, I'm sure you saw the sea of American flags. Those American flags displayed across the lawn. I don't know if you know the story behind it, but it's truly touching. Each year for Memorial Day, our community is invited to dedicate a flag in memory of a fallen loved one, maybe a friend, fellow service member, or all those who we've lost. With this gift to support our mission, their dedication and support to help us ensure these stories are never forgotten. And this year, more than 1,000 flags are displayed to honor those we've lost. And by the way, if you want to dedicate and plant a flag before you leave today, it's highly encouraged. Just see one of our team members near the main entrance. If you're joining us online today, we welcome you. You can visit our website for more information, and a special thanks to our volunteers from Bolden, Wells Fargo, Wendy's, Deloitte, and DHL Supply, who helped create this year's display. Also want to recognize two very special National Veterans Memorial Museum volunteers, Tim and Peggy Koluje. Tim and Peggy, if you wouldn't mind, please stand. Tim is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and his wife Peggy, I got to meet just before the ceremony started, have dedicated countless hours over the years to helping map, grid, and install our flag display. Believe it or not, there's a science behind all of that out there, all of the sea of flags. So if we could give them a hand, thank you for your time and leadership. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the CEO of this wonderful institution, my good friend, Dr. Frederick Bertley.
Good morning, everyone. The mission here is to honor all veterans, elevate their stories, and amplify the power of service for everyone, everywhere. That's what this hallowed institution is all about. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum isn't just a name we threw out there, but it's a Congress-designated term. We represent all 6 branches of the armed forces for all 50 states, and that's right here in the great city of Columbus. And when you talk about honoring veterans, as was briefly mentioned by Boxer, yesterday we had the opportunity of having our Gold Star and Gold Family event here yesterday to recognize those who have families who actually felt the ultimate sacrifice. And when you talk about touching, and when you talk about having meaningful impact for your city, for your state, for your country, that is best exemplified by this institution. And so with that, one of the other cool things about honoring veterans and elevating their stories is you get to meet countless amazing men, women, and people that have given their lives for this nation. And then you get to meet some who leave the military and go into that veteran space and have a further elevated impact for this great nation. And it's with my utmost pleasure to introduce one of those to you today. That's our keynote speaker, Nate Boyer. Nate's interesting. There's a CEO named Brad Smith, who's the former CEO of that big tech company, Intuit, who also, by the way, he's now the president of Marshall University. He described Nate as a modern-day Renaissance man. And no truer words have been said, because you think about his career, an amazing individual. And we share some things in common, but not too many. One of them is he went to the University of Texas where he played football. I support the Ohio State Buckeyes. But after that illustrious career, he then went to the NFL and played for the Seattle Seahawks. And while I'm supposed to say I support the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, I like them, but they're my secondary, tertiary team, as I've lived prior to Columbus in the great city of Boston, so I'm a New England Patriots fan. Apologies. But then he didn't stop there, and he saw a connection between serving in the military, though at a different level, but what individuals go through when they aspire to be the best that they can be. And none personifies that more than playing in the National Football League. And so he has that incredible duality of serving the country in the military and then being a veteran. You'll hear more about that. But I think my most favorite story, and the one thing we do share in common, is prior to joining the military, prior to playing in the NFL, he lived in the Sudan and spent a significant amount of time in Darfur. And he cites that as the exemplary event he went through in his life that got him to commit to service and helping others. He worked in refugee camps, bringing service to countless downtrodden folks. And I share that because I, too, in a similar age in my early 20s, lived in Sudan for a year. And that's where I got the passion of service and doing for others. And so while I'm not a Green Beret, he is, thank you for that. While I've not played in the NFL, though I watch it like crazy on television, we do share that one piece. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor on this important Memorial Day weekend that you give a warm round of applause for today's distinguished speaker, Nate Boyer, Green Beret, NFL athlete. And as I'm sure you'll hear, blockbuster Hollywood film producer.
Thank you very much. That was a perfect intro, actually, a little too perfect. The reality is I played in one game, but you know what? In the NFL. I did play in college for a time, but man, you made it sound like I had a Peyton Manning-esque career, so I'll take it. Thank you. Yeah, so, you know, as you mentioned, in my early 20s, look, I graduated high school. Both my parents were, highly educated. They worked really hard to get where they got, set a great example. And what did I do that so many of us do? I went the other way, I think maybe part of it was avoiding responsibility. Maybe part of it was fearing greatness or attempting to be great at anything because of the failure that we may experience. So I didn't really commit to much of anything, and I certainly didn't live up to, I don't want to say expectations, that's not fair to my folks, but I didn't live up to maybe my own, because I did feel like I was meant to be a part of something, like I think we all are, and meant to do something that matters. I mean, look, none of us want to live our lives feeling like we haven't made an impact, or feeling like if we are gone, that the world will keep spinning just fine without us. Of course, we don't want the world to fall apart, but we do want to know that we are purposeful and that we belong and that we matter to people. And I didn't feel that, as a young man, and I ended up going to the Darfur region of Sudan, which is Western Sudan, in 2004. And look, 9/11 had happened. I was thinking about the military. I'd thought about it prior, and I just didn't have that belief in myself that I could do it, or that I would, look, I can't have somebody else's life in my hands. I don't even know if I'm able to handle my own. And so it took stepping out of my comfort zone. It took going to a place that I knew very little about, that had suffered some pretty, intense tragedy. It was in the midst of a genocide that was going on there, and they needed volunteers, and so I went, and over those months was completely changed, and it wasn't anything that I did at all. It was just recognizing the impact that I could have by just showing up and trying, right? Doing simple things, being there for people, and there was this overwhelming sentiment that I felt from those people in Chad and Sudan that I encountered, that just, this place that you come from, the United States of America, while it's not perfect, it is a special place. It is a beacon of hope to a lot of people around the world. And they wanted to hear about America, and I'm not going to say I was an unpatriotic person before that, because I don't think that I was, but I certainly didn't understand what I had, and I definitely didn't understand the amount of sacrifice that was given for me to have this, for us to have this opportunity. So I really started to gain my patriotism over there, as ironic as that sounds. And my last week in country, I got malaria. I took the malaria pills, they didn't work. And this local family put me up, and they wouldn't take anything from me. And they put this little radio next to the cot that I was recovering in, and I listened to, on the radio, the only station that came through was news, and I listened to the Second Battle of Fallujah as it was going on, sort of honestly the play-by-play of what was happening there. And it just sort of hit me. Maybe this is the next thing. Maybe this is what I am meant to do. Maybe this is the purpose you've been searching for, and the being a part of something great in some way. And I finally had confidence that I could go try to do this thing because of just taking that step, right? Taking that step, getting on that airplane, flying over there. I was assisting in the medical centers and helping build refugee camps and like very simple stuff that honestly almost everybody could do. But it was just as, I guess, as also as simple as, are you willing to do it? And now I felt that what service really feels like, and I felt that connection to other people, even if you don't know them, even if you don't understand them. At the end of the day, we're all pretty similar. We want the same basic things, I think, most people. And, I felt this attachment to service. And so I came back to the States. I joined the military, ended up joining the Army, was very fortunate to earn a Green Beret and serve alongside the Special Forces. And I did that for 5 years on active duty, and I had the opportunity to go to Iraq and a few other places as well. And then I was turning 29 years old, and trying to figure out what was next for me in life. I wanted to keep serving at some capacity. I ended up transitioning into the Texas National Guard, but I was finally ready to go to college. And I figured if I go, no matter where I go, I should do the thing. I should not live with regrets anymore, right? I don't think anybody wants to live with regrets. And growing up, I played baseball, I played basketball, but I never played football, and it was my favorite sport, at least to watch. and I just said, you know what? Wherever I go, I'm going to try out for the team. I'll prepare for it, of course. I'll train, but I'll just try out and see what happens. And I ended up going to Texas, which turns out is a pretty good football team, not quite as good as Ohio State, obviously. Well, we got another shot here, August 30th. We'll see what happens. But I ended up going to Austin and getting got into UT and went out first day of school, went out to football tryouts, and I might have been going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, but I was going 100 miles an hour on every play because that's what we were trained to do in the military. And I just wouldn't give them a reason to cut me, And I made it on the scout team that first year. And then as the season went on and I was trying to find a way on the field, I realized also that I'm really not that great of an athlete compared to these guys. So I need to find a thankless job that nobody wants to do as my way onto the field. And we're used to doing a lot of thankless jobs in the military. Not that people don't say thank you for your service, and we do recognize that and appreciate that. But there are a lot of things that people don't know that we do that are not fun. And when you're around your brothers and sisters in arms, you do those things for one another. Sometimes it's as big as laying down your life, and sometimes it's the little things, but we are willing to do that. And that is a very special thing. It's a very unique thing. And it certainly has helped me in other facets of life, and it helped me get on the field at Texas. And so I became a long snapper. So if you don't know what a long snapper is, you can Google it later to get more details. But basically, it's the guy that hikes it between his legs on punts, field goals, and extra points. Nobody knows who this person is. Nobody cares until they screw up. And then they're the bad guy. And everybody knows who you are. If your name's in the paper as a long snapper, unless you happen to be an old veteran that was playing, it's usually for the wrong reasons. So Anyway, I took that job, though, because I just wanted to play. And I ended up earning the starting job my sophomore year, and it was awesome, you know. But the thing that I remember the most about playing, the moments that were always the most special, were actually before the game. So Texas started this tradition, and a lot of schools do this, after 9/11, where they would have somebody, one of the players, who had family in the military, would lead the team out of the tunnel with the American flag. Well, since I was actually in the military, I got to do it every game, which was such an honor. So I remember I'd stand there in the tunnel, even on road games, you know, and you're waiting to go out there, and I would spend those few minutes, sometimes few seconds, thinking about those that were still fighting, thinking about those that had served and maybe felt a little bit held back and felt like they weren't worth it to go chase their dreams or whatever that is. And mostly I thought about those that we should be thinking about today that didn't make it back, those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. And it really, honestly, it helped me. It helped settle me into the game, to the situation. You know, maybe, I don't know if you're you know, spiritual person, religious person or not, but you know, I think there is something there. There is certainly an energy that you feel when you send thoughts a certain way, or when you can sometimes feel when people are thinking about you, or they've got your back, or whatever that looks like. I'd always feel that. I'd feel like this, just calm and ease. And at the end of the day, look, I'm playing a game. It's football. It's not life or death, but there is 100,000 people in the stadium and a lot of people watching on TV, and you know, you feel that pressure. But it would help me settle in and just remember, like, this, as awesome as this is, it pales in comparison to the importance of the sacrifices that were made. And without those sacrifices, we wouldn't get to play these games and do the things that we love, and have the mattress blowout sale today and the barbecue and all that stuff. Like, that is because of what those flags out there represent. And if you haven't, by the way, if this is your first time here, come back, bring people back. If you have not had a chance to go down to the reflective pool, you know, as mentioned last night, there was a very special ceremony for the Gold Star families, and this is my third time here. That was my first time down there. I had not seen that. I didn't even realize. And a reflective pool is meant to, you're meant to reflect. That's the point, you know. So do that. Not just today. You should do it at some point every day if you can. But bring people back here. That's just an aside I want to say, because this is a very special place. There's nothing like this in the country. And I've been to a lot of different memorials, and there's some very special things out there, but this is unique. This is a unique place. It's really cool that it's in your backyard here. So anyway, yeah, running out of the tunnel with the flag and then playing the game. And look, you know, we were not as good as we are now when I played at Texas, so no national championship runs or anything like that. But special and also very fortunate, and I volunteered for it, to continue to serve while I was playing ball. And every summer I would go over to Afghanistan for about 3.5 months. I would get attached to a special forces team. I would do my job over there, and then I would come home and go to class and go to training camp and then play football, and kind of back and forth, you know, trading one helmet for the other one, essentially, or a jersey for camouflage, and always having this identity and this purpose and being a part of this team. And then, you know, as all good things do, it ended. It was time for me to transition out of the military, and I did have an opportunity at the next level on the football field with the Seattle Seahawks, and going up there, it was awesome. I only, like I said, I played one game. I spent 5 months up there in the off season in training camp, in the preseason, and you know, I had a locker next to me. The locker next to me was Marshawn Lynch. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very surreal situation. But being in Seattle was great too, because huge support for the military. Very much a military town there. A beautiful place. And the one game I played in, I was asked again by the equipment manager if I would like to lead the team out of the tunnel with the flag. And once again, you know, that honor was something that meant a great deal to me and means a great deal to me. So I did that. I ran out of the tunnel with the flag, and I come over to the sideline, the game's about to start, and, in college, I don't know if you realize this, but the players are actually still in the locker room when they play the national anthem. So I hadn't experienced that before, being on the field when the anthem was played. And that mixed with nervousness, mixed with thinking about my great friend Brad Keys, Master Sergeant Brad Keys, who passed away in 2012, thinking about so many others, I started to get emotional. And as soon as the Star Spangled Banner started playing, I just fell apart. I broke down in tears. And it was good tears. It wasn't bad. I mean, crying, it's funny. Like, sometimes I think we feel shame for that, or we assume somebody's sad when they're crying. And it wasn't any of those things. It was just reflecting, to be completely honest. It was remembering, and it was a sense of pride, being a part of that. And thinking about those people and how they'd want to be remembered and thought of, not just on Memorial Day, but every day. And it was a very special moment. So the song ends, I turn around, there's like a line of some of the players there, waiting to give me a hug. And some star players, they got a game to play. And it was an incredibly special moment, and just remembering, too, that there are so many out there, even if they never say it or don't know how to say it, that are grateful, and that was really special and really important. And but then, hey, 3 days later I got cut, right? So that's what happens. It's a business at the end of the day. So that was it. Football was over. I was out of the military, and I was 34 years old, and I felt like I had a lot left in the tank. I feel like I had a lot left to do, maybe, and a lot of passion, certainly. And I wasn't quite sure where to direct it. And that's where MVP came about. MVP standing for Merging Vets and Players in Our Community. And it's a nonprofit I co-founded that brings together combat vets and former professional athletes and helps them find purpose and identity when they lose a uniform. There's a lot of similarities. Of course, the battlefield and the ball field are completely different places, and we would never compare that. War and playing sports, completely different things. Would never compare that. The uniform is different. There's a lot of things that are different, but the camaraderie, the sense of purpose, the structure, having to sacrifice, although the sacrifices are extremely different, to be elite can be similar, and feeling like you peaked at a young age and you'll never be great again, it can be similar. And losing that uniform, losing that locker room or that team room can be similar. And so that's how that started. What we do is we meet up weekly in our cities around the country and in our chapters, and we'll work out for a little while, and then we huddle up and we just talk, and we remember, and we talk about, a lot of what we talk about is the people that those flags represent, right? The men and women that we either knew or we didn't know and we heard the stories about. And, I've learned so much from those conversations just listening to other veterans, and many of them have lost a lot more than I have. I consider myself really lucky, given what we did over there and what our job was and what the mission was, to not lose so many. I consider it incredibly sad that I've lost more friends back home afterwards to their own hands than I have overseas in combat. And that's something that is important for us to continue to work on, and that's something that I know NVMM is committed to, and so many others. We had this incredible speaker last night, General Graham, who has lost a couple of sons, a general, right? A couple of sons. One was in ROTC, lost the battle back home, and another one was killed in action overseas in the same year, in the same, I think, in an 8-month period. Unbelievable. How do you recover from that? How do you keep going? Well, what you do is you continue to fight for others. You continue to uplift your community and be an inspiration and keep moving forward, keep showing up. You just don't quit, And that's what he does, and so many people do and exemplify, and that's why we need to keep going. But one of those conversations at MVP that really, really impacted me and still impacts me to this day, and it just resonates so much with me on Memorial Day. One of our individuals, and you know, I'm a big quote stealer. I'm not super original when it comes to stuff. I hear something that I think is great, and it's like I don't claim it as my own. That's why I just said that. But I'll use it because I think it's something that maybe other people want to hear as well. And I don't think this was an original from him either. I think this is, I don't know where this came from, but it's very impactful to me anyway. And he said every person dies 3 deaths. The physical death, of course, right? The death when they are no longer recognized in photographs, and the death when their names are no longer spoken. And I thought that was great that you said that, Chaplain, earlier, because it just reminded me of him and him sharing that with me, because he's lost a lot. He had lost a lot more than I have. And that's something I think we can carry forward outside of this place today. As I said, bring people back to this place, people that don't know about this, whether they have a military connection or not. It's almost more impactful if they don't, you know, if they don't have a connection to this. Because we need to keep sharing these stories. We need to keep reminding one another what we do have, the good that is out there, the people that are willing time and time again to volunteer and go lay down their lives for our country and for others, to fight for those that can't fight for themselves, people outside of this country. And so yes, I want to leave you with that. Remember, reflect, say their names, and do that every day. You know, do that every day if you can. But thank you so much for having me here once again. NVMM, thank you for always including me and being a part of our journey with MVP. I mean, I think there's just so much to be done, and the more that we come together as Americans, as organizations, as human beings, to do the right thing and to uphold what these men and women have laid their lives down for, the better. And thank you again. God bless you on this Memorial Day, and God bless America. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nate. By the way, Nate, August 30th, are we going to see you back here, you think? Yeah, we can arrange that. This is Columbus, absolutely. Great job, Nate. That was very, very heartfelt, and I learned things about you that I didn't know, so thank you. Thank you for your service as well, sir. It is now time to recognize some of our young supporters of the museum. We're pleased to be joined today by the winners of the Army Educational Outreach Program and our friends at Battelle. This year's Veteran Appreciation Challenge has been awarded to Elise Cassie, the 4th through 8th grade winner from Lancaster, California, and Jimmy Muhammad, the 9th through 12th grade winner from Sugar Land, Texas. Yeah, we can give him a hand. Yeah. You guys right over there? You want to stand? Yeah, let's stand. We want to see you. Great job. Great work, guys. Great work. This National STEM Challenge, it's a joint effort of the Army Educational Outreach Program at Battelle for grades 4 through 12. It provides the chance to test their creativity and engineering skills by designing a 3D pen that gives thanks to our U.S. military veterans. They will be with us the rest of the day distributing their pens, so glad you guys are here. Thank you for making the trip. They're also joined today by Naz Kavak, Relationship Manager for Education and STEM Learning. Naz, thank you, and Battelle for creating this wonderful opportunity. Where's Naz at? Oh, how you doing? Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Well, our next speaker has been serving Ohioans for more than 2 decades, and we are honored to have him here with us today. Please welcome Senator John Houston.
Good morning. It is an honor to be here. I have the unique distinction of being America's newest U.S. Senator, having replaced J.D. Vance in that role. He got a new job, if you hadn't heard about that. And it's an honor for me to speak here today. Every time I'm in this building, it's special. A couple places you go in life, Arlington National Cemetery that I've been to. Anytime I'm at the U.S. Air Force Museum here in Ohio at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, it's special. Anytime I'm at the National Veterans Memorial Museum, it's special, but being here on Memorial Day is unique and solemn and celebratory all at the same time. I always talk about America as just such a special place. I love the country. I love our nation. We are this great idea. If you think about all of human history, nobody lived free up until the creation of the United States of America, because we all lived under kings or dictators or tyrants. There was this idea that we could live free, self-governance, and nearly 250 years ago, coming up on the Independence Day celebration, we were that first place, and we declared ourselves independent on a piece of paper, but it took the lives and sacrifice of those who served in our military then and over the years to preserve and advance that cause of freedom here and around the world. It's what makes America special. It's a country worth loving and sacrificing for. Today we honor and celebrate that service and the sacrifice of those men and women who served in our military and lost their lives for the cause of that freedom. We set aside this day, this Memorial Day, to honor the sacrifice of those who lost their lives, the lives they had and the lives that were in front of them that they never got to live. They were husbands and fathers and sons and brothers and wives and mothers and daughters and sisters. And they lost it all for the cause of what they loved, which was this country and their family, and the idea of preserving that for future generations. It's loving something bigger than yourself, something more than your life itself. You love so much that you were willing to sacrifice for it. We honor their service and their memories and the cause in which they died for, cause of people they loved. Because we only sacrifice for things that we love. Really, we only sacrifice for those things. And our loved lost ones sacrifice for their families and that freedom in this country. That's why I always say that we must honor and celebrate what we value. It's just important to do that, to take the time in this busy life where all these things are going on, to just take a moment to say thank you, to remember what it was all about, that there's a purpose or a cause that's more important than anything we do every day, and that there are a handful of us who are willing to put our lives on the line for all of us. And that's why I've loved to see the two young people who received the honor and recognition. Thank you. But it's so important. It's so important that we teach our children to love their country and to value sacrifice and value the sacrifices of those who gave the ultimate gift for the cause of freedom. How will future generations know unless we take the time to honor their memories? How will they know it's important unless we take a moment like right now to talk about it and to share their stories, to say their names? But on this day, I will say it is so important for us to talk about this with our children, to teach the next generation that this country is worth loving, because they will not sacrifice for something that they do not love. And to help them understand all that has been given and sacrificed to give them the freedoms that they have today. That we have an obligation to take the time with our children or grandchildren, or a neighbor child that maybe doesn't have someone to share with them, to help them understand what a great place this is and what so many have sacrificed for. So on this day, rededicate ourselves to sharing the stories, the names, the lives of those who sacrificed and what they sacrificed for, so that this great nation that was founded nearly 250 years ago, that has been preserved by their sacrifices, will be forever the beacon of hope for our futures. And may God bless the memories of all who served and the families who have lost loved ones. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and congrats again on becoming a senator earlier this year. We'd also like to take a moment to thank other elected officials with us today. Columbus City Council member Nancy Day Ockauer, Columbus City Attorney Zach Klein, and any other elected officials here with us today or watching us online. Thank you so much for your support. At this time, I'd like to bring up Nate Boyer back up to the stage along with Colonel Bill Butler to lay a wreath in honor of those who have lost their lives in service to our country.
What difference if I hail from north or south, or from the east or west? My heart is filled with love for all of these. I only know I swell with pride, and deep within my breast I thrill to see your glory paint the breeze. This is my country, land of my birth.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Butler, president here at the National Veterans Memorial Museum. I'm also a retired Army colonel, served on active duty all over the world for 27 years as a career infantry officer, with service in Afghanistan for 2 years and Iraq for 1. To me, Memorial Day is not just a day on the calendar, it's a promise. A promise that we will never forget those who laid down their lives to protect our freedoms. A promise to their families that their loved ones' courage, service, and sacrifice will never fade into silence. Today, we remember not just the way they died, but the way they lived. We celebrate their stories, their laughter, their dreams, and their enduring legacy. And we say their names aloud because every name represents a life, a son or a daughter, a father or mother, a sister or brother, a husband or wife, a friend. Saying their names out loud is an act of love, of honor, and eternal remembrance. Let us carry their memory forward, not only in ceremonies like this, but in the way we live, the way we serve, and the way we care for one another as a nation. I will never forget. I will never forget Private First Class Brown, Specialist Harris, and Specialist Haynes.
I will never forget Lance Corporal Cameron Babcock, Sergeant First Class Jeff Frick, Chief Warrant Officer Sean Thomas.
Say their names, celebrate their lives, and let us live lives worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able to, please stand and let us observe a moment of silence to reflect on our loved ones. This will immediately be followed by a volley fire from the firing party and the playing of taps. Please do not be startled. You may be seated. I want to bring back Chaplain Whiteman, who will now lead us in prayer for the departed.
As we go from this place, grateful for those who have died for us and given all that they can. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord turn his face toward you, and may he be gracious to you. And as always, Lord, we ask that you give us peace. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. This is, on a lighter note, this is one of my more favorite parts. I love this. The band will now play the Armed Forces Medley, and we invite you to stand, if you're able to, for your branch song. I see one of you has a big gallon of water down there. Is that for you alone, sir? That's amazing. We're grateful to have you here. Thank you again to our sponsors for their support of today's Memorial Day ceremony. As we conclude this morning, please join me in thanking all of those who made this ceremony possible. Marion Harding, High School Army JROTC, Chaplain Whiteman, Ohio Department of Natural Resources Honor Guard, the 122nd Army Band, Nate Boyer, Dr. Frederick Bertley, Bill Butler, and the rest of the NVMM staff and volunteers. It's been a true honor on myself to be here today. Thank you to everyone at the NVM for allowing me this opportunity. And I want to invite you to spend more time at this beautiful facility today. Please remember to visit our team in the back for more info on sharing your story with us and StoryCorps and planting a flag, museum membership, and much, much more. Thank you, and God bless America.